Back to the Dean Obeidallah show. Right now, very happy to have the chair of the state of Wisconsin, Ben Wikler, back on the show to talk about the all-important Supreme Court race Tuesday in Wisconsin. Chair Wikler, good to see you, my friend. And Wisconsin's always at the center of everything. Why is this? It's special.
It is the closest state in the country. It was the closest state in the presidential election in 2024. There's a few states, three states that have had two presidential elections this century that came down to less than 1 percentage point. Wisconsin's had five. We're the we're the land of the nail biter, and that means that what happens with voting rights in our state, what happens with gerrymandering in our state, it affects Senate majorities, House majorities, presidential elections. Like the whole country's politics can hinge on Wisconsin, and the state's politics can hinge on the Supreme Court. And this election determines who has the majority. And it's basically Susan Crawford, our candidate, versus Elon Musk and Donald Trump and their kind of henchman, Brad Schimmel.
And Brad Schimmel I just call him MAGA's Brad Schimmel. This is a guy who said point blank, if he wins, he'd be, quote, part of the support system for Trump. That's not usually, you don't hear that from a judge saying I'll be part of the support system. How about I'll be doing blind? I'm a judge. I don't look at the scale. I'll be part of the support system for Trump. How can he even be a judge?
It's not what the founders intended, you might say. He also said that he has had to buy knee pads at Menards so he could crawl around on his knees and beg, please, 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 from Republican national donors. So we have an ad about knee pad Brad and how Elon Musk responded to his call, has poured about $20 million into the election at this point. It is more than anyone has ever spent in any judicial election in American history, but he knows that if he buys Kneepad Brad and has him do Trump's bidding, they'll get whatever they want out of the Wisconsin Supreme Court. So this is really like a test of whether people power can overcome money power in this country.
I agree. It really is a test lab, and I think Musk is looking at it that way as well. But tell us about Judge Susan Crawford. She's the progressive. It's a nonpartisan race, but we know who's the liberal, and we know who the right-wing MAGA person, and that's Brad Schimmel. But on the left is Susan Crawford. She's currently a judge right now. What can you tell us about her?
Susan Crawford is the kind of public servant that Elon Musk is trying to force out of our federal government. And now he wants to stop public servants from being in our state government. She was a prosecutor for years. She served under, later on, Governor Jim Doyle, but Attorney General Jim Doyle. Then she went with him to the executive branch in Wisconsin. She oversaw environmental enforcement for the Department of Natural Resources in the state, served in different state jobs. When Scott Walker was elected, she left state government, and in private practice, she represented Planned Parenthood in a case called Planned Parenthood versus Brad Schimmel, which kind of sums up another aspect of this race, the pre-Civil War abortion ban that Brad Schimmel wants to put in. And then she defended voting rights when Brad Schimmel and Republicans were putting voter suppression laws into place. She insisted and won in court the right for people without a driver's license to get a free voter ID. She represented workers' rights when Republicans were union busting. She really, upheld our Wisconsin's finest values and then became a judge. And she's been a great judge, serving with distinction, really good record on public safety. Republicans are running all these ads trying to cherry pick cases. The reality is Schimmel has this record of giving sweetheart deals to people who contribute to his campaigns, like the defendant in a child pornography case. His lawyer gave $5,000 to his campaign for attorney general, and he got this plea bargain that no one could believe. That is the last thing that you want in a state Supreme Court is someone with a record of being bought and sold. But for Susan Crawford, she can't be bought. And that's, I think, why the Republicans are so furious about her. She's a great candidate. She'll be a great justice. We just need to get every possible voter out in this final stretch. And early voting is open today.
Today's the first day of it, or it's been open for a little while?
No, it's been open since last Tuesday. So the numbers are going up and up. Based on our read of the early voting data, it seems like it's going to be a very high turnout election on both sides. I think we have the momentum right now, but the Republican strategy is to just go really hardcore on saying that this is a referendum on Trump. You need to support Trump. Schimmel's running ads that talk about Trump's endorsement and then say Susan Crawford would block Trump's agenda. So you've got to vote for Brad Schimmel, which again, like saying that you're just going to do whatever a president wants, even if they break the law, like it is ghastly. And it has to motivate us. We have to make sure it motivates us more than it motivates Republicans who want to dismantle our democracy. If we can win this, we send a message to the whole country about where the energy is in this moment.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm chatting with the Wisconsin Democratic Chair, Ben Wikler. So, Ben, what are the other issues? You mentioned the abortion issue from that old case. We've talked about that before. What about redistricting congressional races, voter suppression? What else can you share that's important?
Well, the Republicans are basically running on a promise that they're going to keep our congressional lines exactly the way that they are. This is what Elon Musk is saying in his interview, that this is what motivated him to get involved. Now, he has his own case to sell
Mhm.
Teslas in Wisconsin
Mhm.
and push aside Wisconsin's car dealership law. So he can make money for himself if he wins this election, but he also wants to lock in control of Congress through the gerrymandering. And there is no case challenging the gerrymander right now. If there were, what I hope everyone would want is for that case to be decided on the merits rather than on the whims of Elon Musk, the world's richest man, pouring tens of millions of dollars into the state. So he wants to lock in GOP control of the House. He's also tweeted about what he calls voter fraud, which is a reference to in 2020, the state Supreme Court refusing to overturn the election based on Trump's lawsuit. Trump wanted to throw out hundreds of thousands of legitimate ballots in our state. Essentially because they were done absentee, which is like totally fine. And they happen to be in Democratic counties. He didn't sue about the absentee ballots in the Republican counties. The Republicans have never gotten over the fact that the Supreme Court didn't overturn the election. But for Brad Schimmel, that's infuriating. We don't want our elections overturned. And the last thing I'll say is Schimmel has gone after the women majority. It is 4 women who constitute the kind of pro-democracy majority of the court. He's gone after all 4 of those women justices because of in the hearing about the abortion ban, he said that they were too emotional. They couldn't be objective. And he said you could see it in their eyes. And he is like over and over demeaned women, both with his policies and like not testing sexual assault kits when he was attorney general, and through his words and through his rulings. This is someone who like really doesn't seem to see half of the state as first-class citizens. And that is, you want someone on the Supreme Court who treats everyone the same,
Right.
regardless of who they are. And that's, I think there's a kind of underlying thing about Schimmel not not being ready to dispense equal justice. So all of that is really, really important reasons to get out and vote. And again, this is the first test of whether Trump and Musk and their support can power election victories down ballot, or whether people who fight back have a chance to be able to win. So the consequences in this race will affect the midterms. They'll affect, whether Republicans keep doing whatever Musk and Trump wants nationally. There's huge stakes for the whole country in this race coming up in just a few days.
I agree 100%. And as of now, we saw reporting Elon Musk dropped about 20 million. It's probably even higher. He's even paying people $100 to sign a petition in opposition to activist judges, like he did in Pennsylvania, where he's essentially paying people. And this is all legal in your state. There's no issues at all.
So I mean, it might turn out to not be legal. What he's done is said that he'll pay people $100 to sign a petition saying they oppose activist judges. Now, of course, Brad Schimmel's the real activist in this race, but nonetheless, you have to be a registered voter and you have to sign the petition. He'll send you $100. He says, fine print says he'll send it out months from now, and he'll decide whether or not to send it to each person. And he'll pay you $100 if you get someone else to sign it. This is pretty obviously an attempt to kind of bribe voters
Sure.
to try to motivate people on his side. But this is the same cynical stuff that he did in the presidential race last year. And he basically thinks, he said, I remember in the presidential race that if he lost, he'd be going to jail. He thinks that he can buy a victory and then have a get out of jail free card because he owns the Supreme Court justice. And the thing about state courts is that if someone breaks the law in a state and they're convicted in a state, Trump can't pardon them. State law is beyond the pardon power of the president. So yet again, he also has broken the law in another way. It seems to me, he has set up a front group called Progress 2028 that runs ads saying Susan Crawford is really liberal to conservatives to get them to vote against her. But they haven't reported their campaign spending, which is a felony in Wisconsin, to do campaign expenditures without reporting it. So that and I know there's a complaint that's been filed about that. So like this is out of line stuff. And if he wins, he's just going to keep doing it. He did it last time and
Right.
got away with it. We need to put a stop to this now so we don't see this nationwide in 2026 in the midterms. And Trump never lifts a finger to really help anyone other than him electorally, but Musk is clearly willing to pour money in order to lock in power and to line his own bottom line. So this is our first stand, and it can be a stand that makes a decisive difference in energizing Democrats to fight back against this oligarchy.
Definitely. And, Elon Musk wants to own a Supreme Court justice the same way he owns Donald Trump. And I saw you mentioned the lawsuit. I saw that Musk is suing Wisconsin over a rule banning car manufacturers for operating dealerships. And this case is probably headed to the Supreme Court, where if Schimmel wins, his judge is like, wink, wink. It's like the It's the Gilded Age. I mean, it's like a different time where people are like, I own that judge. Don't worry about it. So, how much press has that gotten? The fact that he filed a lawsuit and then he got involved in this whole election around after that time.
Yeah, this is, I mean, he filed his lawsuit. He tried to open direct manufacturer-owned car dealerships in Wisconsin, and it didn't work. He was turned down. He appealed it, turned down, filed a lawsuit. 5 days later, after filing the lawsuit, he starts spending money to help Brad Schimmel. So this is someone who's trying to buy an electoral outcome in order to make more money. And again, we should say no to that kind of corruption. Like that is just it is not how our system is supposed to work. Sometimes it does work that way, and we should be putting a stop to it instead of encouraging it. Musk seems to think that everything should be for sale. And in one hand,
Yeah.
he is scooping up billions of dollars in federal contracts that probably has the power to award himself at this point. On the other hand, he's shutting down Social Security offices. He's attacking the Veterans Administration. He's attacking international vaccine programs, which could lead to infectious diseases that kill Americans and as well as people around the world. This is somebody who is just in the most short-sighted and honestly offensively dumb and also evil way imaginable, essentially trying to perform dentistry with a chainsaw. Like this is somebody who is attacking things that protect people's lives and pretending that he's doing nothing wrong at all, la-di-da, while he makes even more money for himself. His net worth is falling because people are so furious at Tesla. But this is someone who is ensuring that the government sends money to his companies while it doesn't fund things that people need to get through the day, like phone service and Social Security offices. And it's causing chaos for folks who paid into the Social Security system throughout their lives. We can give the biggest punch back against this madness by electing Susan Crawford in Wisconsin on April 1st. So this is all hands on deck.
Susan Crawford, April 1st, Wisconsin. Chatting with Ben Wikler, Democratic State Chair in Wisconsin. So you touch on a little bit there, how people are feeling about this administration. What else are you seeing on the ground? And are you seeing anything about Republicans? Any Republicans upset with Trump and Musk and their regime from cutting programs to help people, veterans? Going to be massive layoffs going on, Social Security, gutting people who work there, so making it impossible to reach people when you need help. I mean, it's really going to get ugly going forward. And they're coming for Medicaid.
Yeah. They're coming for Medicaid. They're coming for Medicare. I mean, they could mangle everything. I've just read that they have so mangled the IRS that wealthy tax cheats are going to walk away with $500 billion. That's the estimate. $500 billion that is owed to the people of the United States in federal taxes that they're not going to collect. That is vastly more than all the savings that could come by shutting off vaccination programs around the world and things like that that keep millions of people alive. He's just flushing money down the toilet in order to allow billionaires like himself to avoid paying their taxes. It is just like enraging. But people don't like it. So what we found is that among Democrats, 97% of Wisconsin Democrats have a negative impression of Elon Musk. He is universally reviled here. He also is unfavorable on average among independent voters. He divides Republicans much more than Trump, who still has most of the support of Republicans. He is just deeply unpopular on a statewide basis. And what that tells us is that when we spread the word about how Elon Musk owns Brad Schimmel and how Brad Schimmel's corruption is basically sold out to Elon Musk, that helps to motivate voters against Schimmel and for Crawford. And that is, for us, a big part of the message in the home sprint. There's the abortion ban, and then there's this additional piece around Elon Musk. And if we make sure voters find out about both of those things, we have a very clear shot at winning this race, even though we're being outspent at this point by Musk and his allies. So like anyone who's listening who wants to help, you can help spread the word about this. You can go to peoplevmusk.org. You can sign up to volunteer. You can phone bank from anywhere in the country. If you're in Wisconsin, you can help knock on doors. You can donate to help the Democratic Party of Wisconsin to spread this message. This is really something where all of us can be the hero in this moment. And if the 125,000 people who've donated to support Susan Crawford's campaign already, if that huge mass of people winds up being more powerful than the world's richest man pouring $20 million into Brad Schimmel's campaign, then we show the whole country that we can fight back and throw off the yoke of Elon Musk in this moment, which is like lighting a candle in the darkness. People need a sense of hope in this moment when people feel powerless.
I could not agree with you more. And, you mentioned, and we both discussed this here, Elon Musk is looking at this as a test lab. He's looking at Wisconsin. At the same time, the mirror of this If we defeat Elon Musk, and especially you there and Susan Crawford, is it also giving us a roadmap to defeat Elon Musk in 2026?
Yes, I really think so. I think that like well, the best outcome from my perspective is we showed that he's so politically toxic that Trump fires him, that Republicans start running, screaming, and then his chainsaw stops buzzing away at programs like Social Security. That would be better for the American people. I think we can
Right.
still blow the Republicans out of the water in 2026 without the added kind of gasoline on the fire of Elon Musk cuts. I just want these attacks on things that people urgently need to stop. But if they hold on to Musk, then we will have developed a playbook that allows us to supercharge and super energize Democrats and people who believe in democracy and believe in the Veterans Administration, the Postal Service to fight back. And that's something that can, I think, inform the work we do in Virginia and New Jersey in the fall in special elections nationwide. And then the 2026, there's like 34 governorships up. We could win Democratic trifectas in a slew of additional states and protect
Wow.
voting rights. We could win, like there's a path. Look at places like Alaska and Louisiana that have elected Democrats at different moments. We could win a Senate majority, which is, people are not even talking about right now, and we could definitely win the House majority. And all of that, we're going to need every possible vote to try to contain the damage and preserve the kind of shreds of democracy that could allow us to ensure that Trump doesn't get a third term. But in this moment of crisis, they are giving us energy by doing these horrible things. And in Wisconsin, we
Yep.
want to show what that energy can turn into electorally so that we can put wind in Democrat sails and we can make sure that Republicans know that they're about to face political accountability for the horrific things that they're all backing right now.
Is this race unifying the Democratic Party in your state? And what I mean by that is there are some Democrats, some who call my show, in fact, who are disappointed with the leadership. And I keep telling people we don't have a democratic identity crisis. We have a leadership crisis, and that we have different Democratic elected officials advocating different things. There's not a unified. Some are really good fighters. Some have their own, a different agenda. They're in a different district. But because you have this race going on, is your party more united in the state?
In Wisconsin, we're totally united. Yeah,
All right.
Democrats are on the same page. They're fighting. I will say, Tammy Baldwin has been exemplary in fighting back against Trump and Musk. She's our great senator.
Yep.
Governor Evers has been going after Trump. He and Attorney General Call have filed multiple lawsuits to try to shut down the attacks by Doge. They're defending things like the Department of Education and school lunch programs. Jill Underly, who's up, she's our superintendent of public instruction. She's been fighting back against these attacks on public education by the GOP. Mark Pocan, Gwen Moore, our members of
Mm-hmm.
Congress. They've been organizing town halls, doing a ton on the ground. Democrats in our state legislature totally united from the grassroots to our statewide elected officials. In Wisconsin, Democrats are fighting back, and that energizes people. When they see their elected officials, throwing themselves into the battle, then they're more likely to volunteer themselves. So I do think that Wisconsin is a model in that sense for what we can be doing nationwide.
That's great to hear. We had Congressman Pocan on every month. He's great. He was just talking about going. I'm not sure if you were there. He was going to Republican districts or to do I guess, the empty chair town hall. But I think this is great, and I saw some press from that event for him. This is so vitally important. We want to keep Democrats engaged. What do you say to me, Chair? Because you talk to Democrats all the time. I'm fearful that some Democrats are checking out because they're telling me they're checking out. They're emailing me or they're calling the show and they said, I'm really disappointed with the Democratic leadership and I don't want to do things. I keep trying to tell them, we're not fighting for them. We're fighting for us. We're fighting for our families. Well, what do you
Yeah.
say?
So that message is exactly right. What I tell people is, look, I get the frustration. I get the fear, the fury. My wife and I have a no news before bed rule now because if we turn on our phones and look at the news alerts, we're not getting any sleep.
Right.
But we should focus our energy on the things where we can actually make a difference. And if we do that, then we can both remind ourselves of our own power. There's no better cure for kind of political anxiety and fear than actually feeling the impact of your own work by doing things that matter. And we can show the whole country that it's time to get back involved in this fight. And this Supreme Court race in Wisconsin is exactly the kind of fight that it is worth leaning into because we can, for people that are terrified that Musk is going to come after them, and there are people who feel that way. And there are people who feel
Sure.
like, all hope is lost and they're going to tune out. But if we win this race, we show that hope is not lost, that we can fight back, that we can win, and it's worth getting involved. And that can build a kind of momentum and energy that can unite the Democratic Party around our core values, which are American values about a country that works for working people, not just right-wing billionaires, a country that actually respects and honors everybody, no matter where they live or what they look like or who they love. Like, those are things that most Americans want. And we can show that those values can win. And when we show that they can win, people who want them to win will throw themselves into the fight and will win even more. That's what we need to do now.
I like your rule about no news before bed. It should be like almost like a caffeine rule, like no news before after 7 p.m. Like whatever it is, your body clock, where if you have a cup of coffee, it's going to screw up your sleeping. The same thing for news. Unfortunately, my show's 6 to 9 p.m. So I have news till at least 9 p.m. Each night. By the way, in Pennsylvania, there wasn't a big money race, so it was a little under the radar, but there was a big upset victory there where a state Senate race went Democrat, a district that Trump won by 15 in November, and that was 23 points more Republican registered voters, as the DNC noted in the statement that came out a little earlier today. Is that indicative to you? Is there some, and I know it's different because Musk is not there throwing millions of dollars. That's under the radar and it snuck up, but it does show some energy on the ground.
Yes. I think it shows what happens when essentially the whole country hasn't gotten involved. And I think that's really important because it shows that there's organic energy on our side that's explosive. The Wisconsin race is going to show us what happens when both sides do everything they possibly can. And that's the
Ah,
thing we need to learn too, because in the most
right.
highly contested elections in 26 and this fall in Virginia, there's going to be enormous efforts by both sides to get involved. Musk is going to, come in with his giant fortune. We need to show that even in the toughest conditions that we can win then too.
Very important. And very last thing, could you remind people if they want to help Judge Susan Crawford win this race? It's Tuesday's the election. Where can they go?
So if you go to vote.wisdems.org, vote.wisdems.org, you can find information about where to vote early. And early voting is open right now. So get involved, vote that way, and then spread the word to people. Get them involved. Go to peoplevmusk.org if you want to donate. And if you want to volunteer, you can see our ad against Elon Musk. This is the moment for everyone to do everything they can. And if you know anyone who lives in Wisconsin, text them about it too, because we can use their help. So the vote.wisdems.org is to find your early vote location. Peoplevmusk.org is how you find how you can get involved in this race. Let's do this. Let's win. Let's celebrate. And then let's use that victory to fuel our efforts for the next phase of this fight. Because we have a long fight ahead, but the spirit is the wind is at our backs. The spirit is welling up inside us. We can win and democracy can survive in this country.
And I'm going to get the ads and play it on my show before your interview so people can hear it from People v. Musk. Well, Chair Wikler, great seeing you, my friend. I wish you the best. Let's win, like you're saying. And I look forward to chatting with you on the other side.